Hey all, this is Urson, welcome back. Welcome back to Eternal. So we're going to take a break from the ladder for a little bit, at least for this episode. We're going to go through the rest of the factions like I promised. The two color combinations, they've been defined rather well by the dev team and have very distinct flavors, which are very well based on the 5 basic colors we've already analyzed. So we're going to kind of go through that briefly. We're going to do the first 5 in this episode, depending on how the time shakes out, and then most likely we'll have the next 5 in the next episode. Something along those lines. So let's start at the top. I'm going to be talking mostly about the multicolored cards from this faction, because that kind of gives you a very good character of what they're about. First combination is Fire and Time. And this faction is called Praxis. This is their banner. Very shiny and fabulous and everything. So as I mentioned last time, Fire is the faction of impermanence or entropy, so kind of explosive temporary power and generally explosiveness. And then Time is obviously knowledge in its depth and breadth. So the Praxis, combine those two bits, they are effectively a bunch of mages that like to use their knowledge to gain power and apply that in ways that have explosive and very impulsive reactions. They also build some pretty bitchin' Magitek. So you'll see their champion is kind of a good indicator of the faction. Champion of Impulse, she is a fiery champion indeed. But yeah, so plus if you get 3 rep when you attack, you get 1 temporary power this turn. Again, that temporary power boost, and +2/+2 when you have 3 time rep. You know, she's aggressive, impulsive, and likes to blow shit up. Kind of a good feel for the faction. Got some neat elementals they can summon. Alluring Ember is 1. Charge, quick, impulsive, aggressive, and Noble Fire Main. Again, elemental that can boost your units temporarily. Mages of Celerity, really cool new card. Pardon me, my throat is dying. No good reason. Ugh. Maybe I shouldn't do grappling for 2 hours before I record a lore episode, but whatever. Alright, a mage, of course, kind of like what the Praxis Arcanum is. And this guy makes your units have charge, which is effectively haste if you play magic, and when you summon him, you can scout out and see what's coming up next. Very cool artwork, and kind of get a good feel what the Praxis are about. Bren, another really good example of mage. Every time you play a spell, you get +1 power, then you increase it by 1. So next turn, you get 2 power if you play a spell. And you can really ramp. That's cool. The next bit is Magitek, I mentioned, right? So Warp is kind of the Praxis flavor. Lots of stuff with Warp, like Workshop Forge. Warp costs are cheaper. Clever Stranger, all your strangers have Warp. But the Praxis, like I said, like to dig up and improve these ancient Magitek constructs called Sentinels. Heart of the Vault is one of the most powerful Sentinels out there. It's kind of buried underneath the Praxis Arcanum, technically, according to the lore. Giant Robot that does lots of good stuff, as I explained when we were playing tokens. Sangos Juggernaut, again, kind of aggressive, reckless, invulnerable to damage. Sentinel, kind of oodles and oodles of fun to play that son of a gun. Monolith Guardian, kind of a lower thing. When you have a relic, it's +6/+6, which is bananas. You can have a 7/7 for 4 if you play relics. So again, really interesting kind of Magitek stuff. And they're one of the few factions in the world of Eternal, the 6 guns and sorcery as they define it, that are actually able to build new Sentinels. The knowledge has been lost with the Praxis where we discovered it, and Moment of Creation is a card showing exactly that. And the flavor is really neat here. And you play 2 Sentinels with power and toughness equal to the number of spells in your void. So that's kind of what the Praxis is in a nutshell. A bunch of impulsive, knowledgeable mages using that knowledge to generate power. Some really cool Magitek explosive constructs. Neat flavor. It's very consistent. I want to show the art on this card because, yeah, you know she's gonna mess some stuff up right for your opponent. Good soup. All right, that's more or less the Praxis. Next combo is Fire and Justice. This faction is called Rakano. So again, Fire being entropy and permanence, kind of explosiveness, and Order, Justice being the faction of Order in its protective and oppressive nature. So here, those two combine for an interesting flavor in a lot of martial prowess and using that, order, that discipline, that protective discipline to gain power by destroying your enemies through martial skill, basically. It's basically what the Rakano are about. In the lore, they are a faction of rebels just outside of Argenport, which is the capital of Myria, this world. It's kind of like a rebel faction. They just like to fight. It's where a lot of independent-minded people go to get away from the strictures of Argenport and just kind of make a life for themselves. So what you'll have in Rakano is a lot of gunslingers, and a lot of clever gunslingers, like the Bullet Shaper here. Kind of got a Magitek gun, doing neat stuff. Discard a spell to get temporary power, so you get that fire flavor coming in. The Rakano Champion's a really good example. He's only a 1/1, but you get the rep, he gets +2, and quick draw +2 in endurance, and he just becomes like a wrecking machine if you put a weapon on him. So again, really, really interesting, quick, aggressive. A lot of deck flavors here too. I didn't mention the practice deck flavors. So obviously you sell tokens, and basically big sentinels is kind of what Praxis is about. So Rakano has kind of an aggro flavor in some cases. So Champion of Glory is a good example for that. Bullet Shaper. To extent, Sword of Icaria, a weapon that you can use to destroy stuff, and Warcry to buff your next units. Warcry is a big Rakano thing. You'll see that popping up a lot. Whirling Duo, again, you have that rebel flavor. These two go around shooting up bars, and they love it. You can tell. Charge and lifesteal, so aggressive, move forward, steal health, which is lifesteal is an interesting flavor because you get that in Injustice sometimes. So very neat, actually a very potent card actually. And then you also have bigger stuff in Rakano. So Rise to the Challenge, draw a unit from your deck, gets +2, just kind of getting that power when you need it. Ferocious Stranger, strangers deal double damage, kind of that martial prowess. He's obviously like some samurai with a katana of fire. You know, good stuff like that. Field Captain, +1 for each time your units attack, so aggression, martial prowess. You see this theme recurring. And you also see some pretty cool units in the Valkyries, which are kind of an order-flavored thing, but these are like the rebel aggressive, we don't need no education kind of Valkyrie. So we've got Rezon, Great Bowmaster, one of the new hotness cards from the new set. Pretty awesome. Flying Reckless, Lifesteal when you have 3 or more spells in your void, deals 3 damage to an enemy. You can get so much value and board control out of this card. When it first came out, people were split. The community was very split on whether this guy's any good, and pretty much, as it has been shown, given that any mid-range deck playing Rakano colors has him in it, means he's pretty freaking good. Renegade Valkyrie, again, something that same flavor. And she's all kinds of fine. But that being said, Jack, also recurring character in Eternal. Kind of got that gunslinger feel. You have a lot of gunslingers here, some Rebel Valkyries, and all in all, some pretty cool soldiers. That's really the Rakano flavor. The main, I don't have any of this particular individual, but I'm going to pull up the bomb of all bombs, Icaria. 7-drop, 5/5. A lot of influence requirements, but look at these keywords. Flying. Aegis, meaning ignores the first removal spell or offensive spell directed against her. Charge, immediately can attack. Endurance, basically vigilance. She never taps out. Warcry 5. The next unit in the deck, when she attacks, gets +5/+5. She is a bomb. She has always been a bomb since set 1, and continues to be a major force to be reckoned with in any Rakano mid-range / Valkyries deck. So, and actually a really good finisher in some control decks. So that's kind of the Rakano flavor. A lot of martial prowess, a lot of aggression, pride in skill, get away, and things of that nature. So that's kind of that vibe. I think we've killed that one to death. Next one will be the Skycrag. Oh, the Skycrag. So, impulsivity, temporary power, aggression, check. Nature. Remember, Primal is a faction of nature, and it's wisdom and fury. Skycrag definitely leans toward the fury side. That's their banner. Kind of cool Viking vibe to it. And that's their champion. The champion of fury. Fury. The furry champion. God damn it. He's a Yeti, okay? He's a Yeti. There's a lot of Yetis here. But again, the premier aggro decks in the format right now, and also in the past, have often come from Skycrag, whether, Yeti Tribal or just, Skycrag, low to the ground good stuff. Champion of Fury has always been relevant ever since he came out in set 2. So, drop this guy on turn 1, make sure he has, turn 2 with charge, get him the extra primal next turn with overwhelm. You got a 4/2 overwhelm, beating face by turn 3. Super good card, super aggressive whenever you're playing Skycrag aggro. You always want to see him in your opening hand, and then usually good shit happens. Here you have, if you think of just, the war-hungry, prideful, aggressive warriors, kind of like not quite accurate, but oh so fun Viking stereotype. You kind of get that vibe from Skycrag. You got the clan hero, kind of badass mofo with a sword and tribal tattoos and all kinds of cool. Spark is kind of a lot of their keyword, which is if the enemy player takes damage, this does something else when played. So if you do damage, again, enforcing that aggression, he gets even stronger. Vettius is kind of the big kahuna for Skycrag. He's, clan father, big dude for low to the ground. He's a 3-2 Aegis quick draw, so first strike basically on offense. And the Aegis makes him stick to the board, especially when removal isn't cheap early. Pay 7 to play Steel Fang Chakram. If you ever flood on power, you get a +4/0, so 7-2 Aegis quick draw. Then that weapon never dies, basically. If it ever entombs, it goes back to your hand, so you can only silence it to make it stop doing that. So he's obviously the core legendary of any Skycrag aggro decks. If you're playing Skycrag aggro, eventually you want to craft for this guy. He's just a bomb and does good stuff. Again, Alpine Tracker, kind of that same vibe. Does damage to everybody when he goes. He's charged, he's aggressive, definitely rugged kind of dude. Like I said, a lot of Yetis here as well. You get a lot of Yeti tribal feel. They come mostly from Primal, but you get a lot of that in Skycrag as well. And a little bit in just Independent Fire, but not as much. So through the Overwhelm, Infiltrate, draw 2, discard a card. So card advantage. If you discard a spell, he gets Berserk. Makes that vibe. Pock Rockpacker. Yeti are just funny dudes. They basically run around, Rock Slide. They run around, playing pranks on people. The problem is their pranks usually end in the person they're playing the prank on dying or being severely injured, which to them is fucking hilarious. They're just kind of that. Not quite goblinoid. That would be more the Grenadins, but they're just, bananas. And again, more of the same here, right? We got that aggression of nature, that wildness. We got Mortar, Baboom. We've got Decimate, which is just a goofy but awesome spell. Deal 10 damage, can't be negated, can't be blocked by Aegis. Like, you pay 10, you deal 10. Period. It's like, it's just such funny. I mean, you've never seen this in any constructed deck in general. Unexpected results. Remember each copy of a spell of your choice in the enemy deck into fire bombs, which is deal 5 damage to yourself and just drop bombs in the enemy deck. Like, you have a lot of this cool, crazy stuff. Crazy Yetis, crazy explosiveness, primal wild nature, and some badass barbarian warriors. This is not like one of the coolest arts ever, by the way. This is also a bomb card in limited. Berserk Overwhelm, 4/6 for 5. It's just good stuff. So, there's your Skycrab vibe. And generally, most of the decks tend toward aggro or low-end mid-range, though now there is a Skycrag deck, in Skycrag colors at least, called Kenedin's, which is more of a combo deck, kind of what we call unfair decks, right? It does stuff that shouldn't be normally limited by power. They can kind of go around that using Combustion Cell and Grenadins. It's a complicated deck to play. It's super cool. I don't have the cards for it yet, so I haven't played it, but I've seen it played, and it's pretty dope. But that kind of has a different flavor to Skycrag and leans toward the more clever natural aspect of it, the wisdom of it all. So kind of neat stuff. That's Skycrag for you. Next one up. Here you go. It's the Stone Scar. Beverage. So, this is their banner. It has a pickaxe. So, in the lore, Stone Scar are the guys who build all the Shiftstone. Shiftstone is also what you, mine all the Shiftstone. They're the guys who go into the mines and grab this stuff. Now, this is what powers all the Magitek and Myria in the lore. It's also what you use to craft cards. It's kind of how it goes. In Stone Scar, you get a lot of gunslingers, but more of the seedy variety. I mean, look at this crazy motherfucker. Like, just junk collector, gunslinger rogue, a lot of rogues, gunslingers, things of that nature. Gunslinger rogue, there you go. Champion of Chaos, kind of overwhelming, deadly. Super aggressive, more kind of the mean, nasty, aggressive side. A lot of sacrifice actions. Bloodright Callus, you build giant weapons by icing your units. Combust, sacrifice a unit to kill a unit. All this kind of... They're not generally nice people. In the lore, the Stone Scar... There's Wyatt. There he is, man. It's really cool what they did, though. This came out in set 1. It had this crazy son of a gun here. And then they actually made him a promo hero card, which is over here. I just love how they do connectivity like this. It's a way that Direwolf Digitals makes the world really come alive, and I really enjoy that. But they're not the nicest people in the world. Definitely hewing toward the more underhanded ways of getting ahead in the world. So power plus the subterfuge and more of the sadist side. Jack, again, a recurring character. He's gone from Rakano to pure red, now to Red Shadow. He's kind of gotten meaner after they technically killed off Ikari on the lore, but, you know, she's still in the decks because God knows it's annoying. Anyway, you'll get some Grenadins, the goblinoid creatures of Eternal, and the Stone Scar technically are the ones who developed the Grenadins the first time. They basically used them as remote miners to go into the dangerous Shiftstone mines, and because they got exposed to so much Shiftstone, they started gaining sentience and doing really weird stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot of... You have in the lore kind of almost an undercurrent of slavery with Stone Scar. Like, you kind of get the vibe that a lot of people who are working for the Stone Scar don't really want to be working for the Stone Scar and conscripted to work the mines. So, yeah, kind of like out for themselves, angry, you can, you know, doesn't shy away from doing underhand things to get ahead, kind of gunslingers. Kind of like the Wild West, but the really mean, nasty side of the Wild West, plus a lot of miners. That's kind of the vibe of Stone Scar. Decks here usually hew toward aggression. Again, for a while, one of the premier aggro decks was using Bandit Queen. I actually don't have any, so I got to show you that one, because that's a really kind of a key Stone Scar card. There you go, Bandit Queen. Again, kind of low to the ground, 4 power, 3/2, charge, and when you summon her, everything gets +1 in quick draw. So, you know, push through damage. If they block, they lose units, and they're further behind on board, and it's more inevitable death. So, yeah, Stone Scar, the decks really do tend to run aggressive. I don't think there's been too much Stone Scar mid-range around, but that's usually how it vibes. And I think during set 3, one of the really powerful decks used a Bandit Queen to go low to the ground and get under a lot of decks and just destroy them quickly, kind of like Skycrag does. So that's kind of the vibe of Stone Scar. All right. And last but not least, so that we did the combinations. So the next set would be the time combinations. Get rid of that one is the Cumbre. Last one for this episode, because God knows I've been talking for 17 minutes and no one wants to hear me talk for any longer. It's their banner. Very formal and pretty, isn't it? So, Cumbre are an interesting bunch. So, as I said, knowledge in its depth and breadth, and discipline, order, protective, and oppressive, right? So the Cumbre, they like progress and order. It's kind of what they do. The crest is of progress. The seat is of progress. It's a very progressive seat, you know. Here you get a lot of... So you get a lot of mages and mystics. You also get a lot of... It has very much a kind of like a Buddhist temple, you know, self-discipline, self-improvement vibe to a lot of the Cumbre stuff. Like, they're strong warriors, but they have that kind of self-improvement spiritual side to them. So you have, like, the awakened student, right? Like, the whole inner power coming to enlightenment, using that to protect and progress things through the knowledge you've gained. That's kind of the vibe of Cumbre. Emblematic card. Been here since set 1. Still played because it's a damn good 2-drop. Every time you play power, it gets +1/+1. This can get out of hand if not removed. So, again, always a threat. Alessi... What to say about Alessi? One of the more controversial cards coming out of the new set. Meta warping. When you play a spell, she gets +1/+1. You gain 1 armor. She, if not controlled, gets out of hand. And if she dies, you can bring her back, and you have a 1-drop that's like a 7/7 killer Aegis because everything refreshes. Like, she is just a bomb in the right deck. But that's kind of that Cumbre vibe, like a mage that constantly improves itself by knowledge and all those things. Orc Record Keeper, you even got a Minotaur in here taking care of the library, which I think is a great bit of flavor. And when she dies, she improves something else. So again, that kind of constant improvement, that progress, that vibe comes throughout. Desert Marshal, I'm not sure how he gets there. I guess he keeps progress by getting rid of the baddies, but he's also a critical card that's used in a lot of decks as an ambush. So kind of like a... what's the term in Magic? I should remember. I think... Is it Flash? Yes, Flash. You can cast him on the enemy's turn. Anytime you'd be able to cast an instant. Anytime you have a reaction. So, and he silences an enemy unit on summon. So he can definitely do some blowout stuff if your opponent isn't careful. What else do we have here? Yeah, so here's the thing, right? We have a Knight Chancellor, again, who makes things stronger by her training and her discipline. A healer, a mystic that can heal people in the most interesting of ways. A Minotaur who's the elite of the elite. He's improved himself to the point where he's a freaking juggernaut. The Enlightened Stranger gives that ability to every stranger that you play. It's kind of like a sliver. Strangers are basically slivers, if you have that vibe. And you have some pretty cool... The Champion's a really good example, right? Simple yet effective. 6/6 for 6. You got 6 rep, you get 6/6, get another 6 rep, you get 6/6. This becomes an 18/18 with the right amount of rep. That's horrifying. You also have, again, it's this Mystic. She can fly, she can lifesteal, she never gets tired. That's kind of really the Combray vibe. You also have some pretty dope weapons in Combray. Sword of Unity being one. Lifesteal Overwhelm. Play Stand Together, which gives everything +1/+1 and Aegis permanently. You know, lots of that kind of martial but progressive vibe to the place. And of course you have some ridiculous stuff like a new Tomorrow. Play the top 10 power cards from your deck depleted. You started with 10 power, next turn you have 20. Your move opponent. You know, stuff like that. So the Combray decks, there's really, I mean, Combray is one of the most common color combinations, either alone or in a 3-color set right now in the current meta. And most of them hew kind of toward either exploiting the hell out of Alessi with really good cheap spells and making her just value plays along with Awakened Student and just kind of just outvaluing the opponent. And there's also big Combray where you just go ham with giant units. I mean, you don't run Champion of Progress, but you know, that sort of feel. You just kind of ramp up power using the time stuff, like the Minotaur Ambassador, play a Time and Justice Sigil from your deck, and you just ramp, play a new Tomorrow, drop, you know, giant drops next turn, and you go, okay, your move. Unless the opponent has a sweeper, they're done. And if you do have a sweeper, you have Stand Together, because Stand Together is evil. Where's Stand Together, actually? Here we go. Yeah. So, and opponent has a sweeper, you play Stand Together, he kills all his units, your units bounce it, and then swing for the win. So that's the feel of Combray. So either you have Combray mid-range, Combray big Combray as they call it, which is just fat, top-end, crazy stuff, or you have decks that exploit the hell out of Alessi and try to go that way. So I think that's enough for this episode. I've been talking for 22 minutes. Who wants to hear that crap? God damn. So those are the first 5 factions. Hopefully that gives you a good sense of each one and what kind of flavor you want to play if you're into that, and a little bit of the lore as things go onward. The next 5 are going to come up next episode, so hopefully you enjoyed that and you got to learn a little bit more Eternal and the lore behind it. And also let's look at the glowing banner because shinies. Alright, that's enough of that. I've been Urs. I will see you all next time on Eternal. Again, if you're enjoying the content, obviously, please leave me a thumb up. And if you don't enjoy it, go give me a thumb down. But do let me know why, because I always want to improve. And as always, I will see you all next time. Thanks again for tuning in. Till next time. Till then.